Welcome to Washington Today on C-SPAN Radio for Friday, August 2nd, 2024. Democratic National Committee Chair Jamie Harrison confirms that Vice President Kamala Harris has more than a majority of votes from all convention delegates in a virtual roll call and will be the nominee of the Democratic Party when the vote that opened yesterday closes Monday. Acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe provides an update on the investigation into the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. Donald Trump, the Republican presidential nominee this year, suggests the U.S. may have paid cash as part of the prisoner exchange with Russia, even though the White House says that is not the case. The 3 U.S. prisoners released from Russia are starting their reintegration process at a military base in Texas. National Guard Bureau Chief General Daniel Hokanson retires and mentions the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol as one of the pivotal moments of his tenure. July jobs report from the Labor Department shows 114,000 jobs created, fewer than expected, and the unemployment rate goes up to 4.3%, worrying some economists that a recession is possibly already underway. And the Senate does not reach agreement on plugging a $3 billion Veterans Department funding gap to prevent a cut to VA benefits before starting their August recess. CNN reports that Vice President Kamala Harris has won enough votes from Democratic delegates to win the party's nomination for president. DNC Chair Jamie Harrison announced Friday. Harris will become the first black woman and the first Asian American to lead a major party ticket. The announcement came during a virtual event with supporters Friday. Delegates began casting their virtual ballots for the nomination Thursday, a process that will continue until Monday evening. Harris is the only name on the ballot, as she was the only candidate to gather the 300 delegate signatures necessary to qualify. That was reporting from CNN. Here is DNC Chair Jamie Harrison.
So as chair of this great party, as chair of this party that is built on hope, I am so proud to confirm that Vice President Harris has earned more than a majority of votes from all convention delegates and will be the nominee of the Democratic Party following the close of voting on Monday. The outpouring of support we have witnessed for the Vice President has been unprecedented. We knew your ballots would come back quickly, but the fact that we can say today, just one day after we open voting, that the Vice President has crossed the majority threshold and will officially be our nominee next week, folks, that is simply outstanding. You returned your nomination petitions at lightning speed. You made your voices heard, and what you said was clear. We are not going back. We have to send Kamala Harris to the White House. You demonstrated your dedication and your commitment to this process. We were already impressed, but you all somehow have managed to outdo yourselves. Folks, I'm sure you can see the commotion around me. I'm thrilled to be speaking to you from the United Center, where in just 17 days, the Vice President will make her acceptance speech. The stage is quite literally being set and being built right now. Everyone here is hard at work putting together what will certainly be a historic and momentous convention.
Democratic National Committee Chair Jamie Harrison at today's virtual program hosted by the Harris for President campaign. After the chair spoke, Vice President Harris called in.
I am honored to be the presumptive Democratic nominee for President of the United States, and I will tell you the tireless work of our delegates, our state leaders, and staff has been pivotal in making this moment possible. And your dedication cannot be overstated. Your dedication to our country. You know, I know we all feel this way so strongly. We love our country. We believe in the promise of America. And that's what this campaign is about. So, of course, I will officially accept your nomination next week once the virtual voting period is closed. But already I'm happy to know that we have enough delegates to secure the nomination. And later this month, we will gather in Chicago, united as one party, where we're going to have an opportunity to celebrate this historic moment together. And again, this campaign is about all of us coming together, people coming together from every walk of life, every lived experience, and being fueled by our love of country, knowing that we are prepared to fight for the best of who we are. We believe in the promise of America, a promise of freedom, opportunity, and justice, not just for some, but for all. And ultimately, in this election, you all have heard me say many times, we each face the question, what kind of country do we want to live in? Do we want to live in a country of freedom, compassion, and rule of law, or a country of chaos, fear, and hate? And the beauty of our democracy is we each, every one of us, has the power to answer that question. And that is why I say and know the power is with the people. So here's the bottom line. I say to all the friends on the call, we are going to win this election. And it is going to take all of us, whether it is making calls, connecting with our communities, engaging online, or even talking with people where we go every day, whether it be to the grocery store or our church. We are going to talk with people about the fact that we are all in this together and we stand together.
Vice President Kamala Harris on the phone at today's virtual event with the Harris for President supporters after the Democratic National Committee Chair Jamie Harrison announced that a majority of the roughly 4,000 Democratic National Committee convention delegates have sent in virtual ballots voting for Kamala Harris, making her the presumptive nominee. The virtual roll call started yesterday and will close Monday, all made necessary by the deadlines in some states to have a nominee in place for November general election ballot access. Another CNN story, the U.S. Secret Service should have had eyes on the roof where an attempted assassin fired shots at Donald Trump last month. Acting Director Ronald Rowe said Friday. Rowe repeatedly asserted during the press conference that the Secret Service and not local police forces should be blamed for the security failures that led to the shooting. This is some of the news conference. First, a question about holding individuals accountable, and then about that building roof where the gunman took the shots.
You said earlier this week to Congress that you don't want to tip anything on the scale as far as disciplinary action is concerned. I need to ask you, since you testified, has anyone been suspended with or without pay? Has anyone been fired? And will you tell us as people are disciplined along the way, or is this something we're going to need to just constantly be asking? Or will you update and tell us 5 people have been fired, 6 people, 7 people? What can you tell us?
Sure. Thank you for that question, David. So, as I said in my opening statement, there are going to be, there's the mission assurance review. If that mission assurance review is looking into if there were policy violations, at that point now, if in fact there were policy violations, at that point now it'll go into a parallel path of a disciplinary type of investigation. Those are internal investigations that deal with employee matters, so we're not going to be able to provide real-time updates or continuously to provide you updates on that. But what I will tell you is that these are very thorough investigations, and if in fact there were policy violations and they are substantiated, those employees will be held accountable.
I think, if I just may, sir, people want accountability. You may not be able to tell us names or positions or something, but will you be able to say that people have been disciplined? People want to hear that there's some accountability here.
I will be able to, at least at a high level, provide at least some type of statement that people are being accountable, being held accountable.
If I may, and I appreciate this, Fox Digital obtained some new video of somebody on the roof, which we believe is the assailant, that was running back and forth while President Trump was speaking. What do you make when you see of that? How does that go with this timeline?
Yeah, so it affirms to me, and again, and you heard this from the FBI, and they're still conducting interviews and looking at this. It even just affirms to me that this was a failure. We should have had better protection for the protectee. We should have had better coverage on that roof line. We should have had at least some other set of eyes from the Secret Service point of view covering that. That building was very close to that outer perimeter, and we should have had more of a presence. And so as far as the timeline of him running back and forth, I know the FBI has provided a bit of a chronology as well, and so I'd have to go back and look at that. But the bottom line is this, David. This was a Secret Service failure. That roof line should have been covered. We should have had better eyes on that.
Secret Service Acting Director Ronald Rowe at a news conference today in Washington. about the investigation into the attempted assassination of Donald Trump at the Butler, Pennsylvania rally in July. He also said that was the first time that Secret Service counter-snipers were sent to a Donald Trump rally during this election season, and the snipers did not have any knowledge there was a man with a gun on the roof of the nearby building until the shots were fired. An Associated Press NORC Center for Public Affairs Research poll conducted in late July found that 31% expressed extreme or strong confidence in the Secret Service's ability to protect presidential candidates from violence before the election, while 40% are somewhat confident and 28% are not very confident at all. The poll also found that 72% of Americans believe the Secret Service holds some responsibility for the attempted assassination, with 43% attributing a great deal of blame on the Secret Service. A story from AFP, journalist Evan Gerskovich and 2 other Americans touched down in Texas on Friday for medical checks after being freed by Russia in a huge prisoner swap. Wall Street Journal reporter Gerskovich, former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan, and journalist Alsu Krumasheva had hours earlier been greeted by President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris during a brief stopover near Washington. Their arrival on U.S. soil late Thursday was met by cheers from family and friends as they disembarked a plane before embracing Biden and Harris. They were among 24 detainees released earlier Thursday in the biggest East-West prisoner swap since the Cold War. That article from AFP. Former President Donald Trump, Republican presidential nominee, was interviewed by Fox Business this morning on the prisoner exchange.
As usual, it was a win for Putin or any other country that deals with us, but we got somebody back, so I'm never going to be challenging that. It wouldn't have happened with us. We would have gotten him back. We wouldn't have had to pay anything. We wouldn't have had to let some of the great killers of the world go, because that's what's happened, as you know. And the deal's very complex because it just came out, so nobody understands the deal yet. And they make it complex, so you can't understand how bad the deal is for us. But we got him back. And we could have had him back. We should have had him back a long time ago. It should have never happened. It would have never happened. He shouldn't have been taken in the first place, and it would have never happened with us if I was president.
So it was more than prisoner swaps? It was something else?
I have no idea what they did. I just know they announced it's a very complex deal. That's usually a way of saying we made a bad deal, and we made it complex so nobody understands it. So we have to find out, was money involved? Did we pay billions? Like last time we paid $6 billion in addition to everything else. So did we pay money? And I put something in Truth today, and it was very interesting. How much did we pay? Who are the people? How are they? Are they bad people? Are they killers? Who are the people? Now we're finding out that the people that they're getting back are serious, very serious people. I want to be nice about it. They're getting back some real killers.
Yeah, they're Russian hackers and...
You know, I did 59 people. We never gave 10 cents, but they gave them back.
Former President Donald Trump on Fox Business Channel this morning. A reporter asked White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan at Thursday's White House news conference, "Can you confirm that no money was exchanged, no sanctions were loosened to facilitate this deal?" Jake Sullivan answered, "Yes, I can confirm that." WOIA-TV Austin, Texas, writes of the 3 U.S. citizens formerly held prisoner. After the stop in Washington, they headed to San Antonio, where they are expected to be treated at Brooke Army Medical Center, which provides post-isolation support activities. It's a program designed by the military to help those who've been held hostage or detained return to regular life. One of them, Paul Whelan, spoke to reporters at Joint Base San Antonio.
Is this the pin that President Biden?
Oh yeah, President Biden gave me his pin from his.
Tell us about it.
That's the American flag. He wore it on his lapel. So we were chatting, and he took it off and gave it to me. So it's a keepsake.
Could you describe the moment of coming back?
Oh, it was nice. It was nice. You know, it didn't feel real until we were flying over England. I'm a British citizen, Irish citizen, Canadian, and American. So as we came over England and I looked down, you know, that's when it became real. We flew over Ireland, then Canada, and into America, and then I knew I was home. So getting off the plane, seeing the president, the vice president, that was nice. It was a good homecoming. So looking forward to seeing my family down here and just recuperating from 5 years, 7 months, and 5 days of just absolute nonsense by the Russian government.
What was it like to hug your sister?
Oh, it was very nice. Yeah, I hadn't seen her in a couple years. So yeah, it's nice to reconnect with family like that. She's done a lot. My brothers too, my parents. Sometimes some harsh words with the government, having to keep them accountable for taking care of us. But in the end, here I am. So Secretary Blinken, Jake Sullivan, the bearded guy that's over here somewhere, Roger Carstens, where did he go? And his team, they work tirelessly. And there are other government agencies that, you'll find out about. The people who arranged the rendezvous with the different prisoners from different countries, that agency, other agencies. So a lot of people and a lot of agencies went into making this happen. So I'm very appreciative of that.
There's so many people around the world who are praying for you to come back home. Your message to all those people who've been praying and are seeing you now and are so thankful that you're an American citizen.
I just say thank you to everybody. Thank you for all your prayers, your good wishes. Thanks for doing everything you did. It all helped. So I had thousands and thousands of letters and cards coming in. So many that the FSB stopped giving them to me. But there were people all over the world, and they were sending in small amounts of money in their letters. There was just tons and tons of support. You couldn't believe it. So I went on a 2-week vacation. The FSB grabbed me, said I was a spy. I'm apparently a general in the Army, a secret agent for DIA. This is the nonsense narrative they came up with, and they wouldn't let it go. So this is how Putin runs his government. This is how Putin runs his country. Yeah, I'm glad I'm home. Yeah. I'm never going back there again. Thank you.
Paul Whelan with reporters in San Antonio. Overnight Thursday into Friday morning, he is one of the 3 U.S. citizens released from Russian prisons in yesterday's prisoner exchange involving the U.S., Russia, Germany, and other countries. More information about that exchange from Reuters. A family of Russian sleeper agents flown to Moscow in the biggest East-West prisoner swap since the Cold War were so deep undercover that their children found out they were Russians only after the flight took off, the Kremlin said on Friday. Spokesman Dmitry Peskov telling reporters before that they didn't know that they were Russian and that they had anything to do with our country. The parents were convicted in a court in Slovenia of pretending to be Argentinians in order to spy. Peskov also confirmed that Vadim Krasikov, a hitman released by Germany, was an employee of Russia's FSB security service and had served in Alpha Group, an FSB special forces unit. That was from Reuters. More U.S. Air Force warplanes, begins an article at Air and Space Forces magazine, and other military assets are likely to deploy to the Middle East in the coming days, a U.S. official told the magazine. The aircraft could help fend off an attack from Iran on Israel and would enhance U.S. force posture in the region following the death by explosion of Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu discussed new defensive U.S. military deployments during a phone call on August 1st. The White House said in a readout of the call. The Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh was asked today for details.
Yesterday, President Biden spoke with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and spoke of, and I quote here, new defensive U.S. military deployments. Yeah. Those haven't been ordered yet. He was speaking hypothetically yesterday, or have they been decided and ordered at this point?
The Secretary and the President have been in close conversations about this. The Secretary will be directing forthcoming force posture moves to bolster our force protection. So there's a commitment that was made in the call with the President and Prime Minister Netanyahu in terms of what specific units, what specific capabilities. That's something that the Secretary will decide. I don't have an exact timeline of when that decision will be made, but that was a commitment that the President reiterated to Prime Minister Netanyahu that you saw on the call yesterday. And again, the Secretary reiterated that in his call with Minister Gallant that happened earlier this morning.
And just to be clear on the wording here, because the word defensive is very prominent in what you're saying. There are no, it is purely defensive. Is this ground-based air defenses? Is it air defenses based on destroyers? And you're not shifting any offensive capabilities?
So appreciate the question. So again, these are defensive capabilities. As we have done before, since October 7th and what we did on April 13th, all of our capabilities that we have there in the region are defensive and to send a message of deterrence. The Secretary on his call committed to Minister Gallant that the United States will stand with Israel in their self-defense. So these would be defensive capabilities if needed.
Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh at her news conference at the Pentagon today. Another Reuters article, Hezbollah forces on Friday resumed rocket and artillery attacks against Israel, ending the lull along the border following Israel's killing of the Lebanese group's military commander in Beirut. A relinquishment of responsibility ceremony at Joint Base Myer-Henderson Hall in Arlington, Virginia. The head of the National Guard Bureau, Army General Daniel Hokanson, retiring after 4 years leading up the Guard and 38 years in uniform. He spoke about the challenges that were faced and overcome by the servicemen and women.
I believe we as the National Guard have kept our promise to America, our promise to be always ready, always there. We never missed a deployment in support of combatant commands around the world. We never missed a call to respond to our communities in times of need. We never wavered in our commitment to our allies and partners, and we continue to strengthen those vital relationships. We faced down a pandemic, widespread protest and civil unrest, and an unprecedented threat to the peaceful transition of power. We deployed overseas, deterring our competitors and defending our nation. We cleared away debris from devastated communities, offering food, water, and hope in the aftermath of hundreds of disasters. We stood with our Ukrainian partners against Russia's horrific invasion, continuing training and support that's endured for more than 30 years. Now, to be clear, these are not my accomplishments. These are the accomplishments of our 440,000 soldiers and airmen. They are the accomplishments of citizen warriors. These are the accomplishments were earned through their service, their sacrifices, and those of their families. It has been my greatest honor to represent them. Because at the end of the day, what matters most is not what at all. It is who. People are the foundation of our armed forces and our nation. People, with their personal dreams and worries, their individual strengths and flaws, make everything we do possible. They are the teammates we serve beside. They are the citizens we defend. They are the families we love. The Constitution we swear an oath to begins with the words, "We the people." And those who wear the cloth of our nation swear a solemn oath to that Constitution, an oath many of us have taken dozens of times. We cannot and must not become numb to the power, weight, and responsibility of the words, "I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter. So help me God." Those words remind us of our grave obligation at a time when competitors threaten to topple the rules-based international order and political division undermines our national stability. But I am a man of faith, faith in God, faith in the institutions that underpin our society, and faith in good people and great leaders to do the right thing. And I have full faith the soldiers and airmen of the National Guard will continue to answer every call from our nation, our states, and our communities, as they have since the first formation of Massachusetts almost 400 years ago.
The 29th National Guard Bureau Chief, Army General Daniel Hokanson, at a relinquishment of responsibility ceremony at Joint Base Myer-Henderson Hall, Arlington, Virginia. Federal News Network has an article, "The National Guard's leadership changes are causing upheaval within the service component, as several top officers have already retired or are set to retire, and the Senate has yet to confirm nominations for their replacements." President Joe Biden tapped Air Force Lieutenant General Stephen Nordhaus, the North American Aerospace Defense Command commander, to be the next chief of the National Guard Bureau. The president's pick for the top position in the Guard was sent to the Senate right before a month-long recess, causing frustration among lawmakers and advocate groups that the White House didn't pick the chief successor sooner to prevent this leadership lapse. That was from Federal News Network. Washington Today continues in a moment.
As more people cancel cable TV, C-SPAN's funding is at risk. This summer, an anonymous donor has stepped up to help by matching all donations up to $25,000. I'm Caitlin with C-SPAN, and this means your gift will go twice as far. Your donation supports unfiltered access to government and public affairs programming, including the C-SPAN podcasts you value. Visit cspan.org/donate to make your gift today. Every dollar helps us reach our $25,000 goal. Thank you for listening and supporting C-SPAN. Donate today at cspan.org/donate.
Welcome back to Washington Today, available as a podcast on the free C-SPAN Now mobile app and wherever you find your podcasts. Story from the Washington Post: employers added 114,000 jobs in July, and the unemployment rate spiked to 4.3%, reflecting a weaker than expected labor market that is stoking fears that interest rates have been too high for too long. With the unemployment rate now at the highest rate since coming out of the pandemic downturn in 2021, economists, banking analysts, and investors warn that recession signals are flashing. Article from the Washington Post. The acting Labor Secretary Julie Su was interviewed on Bloomberg TV this morning, asked about something called the Sahm Rule, named after former Federal Reserve economist Claudia Sahm, that says a recession is almost always in progress if the 3-month average unemployment rate rises half a percentage point from its low of the past year.
The unemployment rate came in at 4.3%, and Claudia Sahm has already said that this has now triggered the Sahm Rule, which basically means we potentially are on the cusp of a recession. How concerned are you in the White House about that?
Well, we're not concerned about that specifically, in part because the unemployment rate that it grew from has been so historically low and has been so historically low for such a long time. I believe even Claudia Sahm herself expressed some questions about whether the rule applies when you start at 4% or just above 4% unemployment rate. So again, we have to keep in mind, these numbers come in not in a vacuum, but as part of a overall picture of an economy that we've been talking about for some time, that did not happen by accident, that was not inevitable, in which there's been tremendous growth and an economic recovery that is frankly the envy of the world. And so we know that the work is not finished. We know that you don't get we don't stop doing the work that we've been doing. But one example of the effectiveness of the president's economic policies is that some of the growth is being driven by private investment into areas in which the president's Investing in America agenda has brought in public investments. And so those investments continue to hit the street. We'll continue to keep delivering them in different communities, and we'll continue to watch the numbers.
Acting Labor Secretary Julie Su on Bloomberg TV. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, Republican from New York, the House Republican Conference Chair, posting on X, #Kamalanomics has failed the American people as the unemployment rate has spiked to its highest level since October 2021. In the past year, there has been net zero job growth. Over 300,000 Americans have started working multiple jobs to make ends meet. And Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat from Massachusetts, posting on X, Fed Chair Powell made a serious mistake not cutting interest rates. He's been warned over and over again that waiting too long risks driving the economy into a ditch. The jobs data is flashing red. Powell needs to cancel his summer vacation and cut rates now, not wait 6 weeks. On Wall Street today, the Dow down 610, S&P down 100, NASDAQ down 417. From E&E News, the Senate passed major water infrastructure legislation Thursday that would help address extreme weather threats nationwide and kickstart work to control floods, improve navigation, and restore ecosystems. Passage of the Thomas R. Carper Water Resources Development Act of 2024, named after Senator Tom Carper, Democrat from Delaware, the retiring chair of the Environment and Public Works Committee, sets up work on crafting a compromise water projects bill before the end of the year. The House passed a version of the bill last month by a vote of 359 to 13. Senator Shelley Moore Capito, Republican from West Virginia, the ranking member of the committee, joined Senator Carper on the Senate floor on Thursday.
It authorizes critical water resource studies and projects across the country. These studies and projects would support navigation along our waterways and at our ports, protect communities from flooding, and improve our environment. The bill avoids a one-size-fits-all solution and maintains important flexibilities so that the Corps and non-federal partners can continue to address the unique water resources needs of all communities. It also contains directives for the Corps to develop comprehensive implementation plans for this bill and prior WRDAs. This will enable the Corps to focus its energy and resources on fully implementing this WRDA and prior WRDA provisions in order to better reflect the intent of Congress. I also want to highlight some of the ways this bill will directly benefit my state of West Virginia. Almost 8 years ago, in June 2016, West Virginia experienced flooding at the highest levels, leading to tragic deaths and devastation. This bill provides support for future projects identified by the Corps' feasibility study for flood risk management along the Kanawha River Basin. The legislation also increases the ability of the Corps to carry out certain smaller projects for emergency stream bank and shoreline protection, ecosystem restoration, and debris and obstruction removal, which are critical to many areas in my state. The bill directs the Corps to expedite feasibility studies for the Upper Guyandotte and Kanawha River basins, as well as to expedite projects in Milton and at the Bluestone Dam in Hinton. This bill supports drinking and wastewater projects all across our state. These are just some of the benefits for my home state that the bill contains several similar wins for states all across the country.
Senator Shelley Moore Capito, Republican from West Virginia, ranking member of the Environment and Public Works Committee on the Senate floor Thursday. As the water projects bill passed by unanimous consent, the House passed its version last week. So now there will be a conference committee to negotiate a final bill that can pass the House and Senate and be signed into law by the president. One bill that did not pass the Senate before adjournment for the August recess on Thursday was nearly $3 billion to cover a shortfall at the Department of Veterans Affairs budget that a Stars and Stripes article says threatens to cut off benefits for veterans by the fall. VA Secretary Dennis McDonough recently notified Congress that the department would be $3 billion short in the current fiscal year, plus another $12 billion short in fiscal year 2025, which starts October 1st. And that's due, he says, to an increase in demand by veterans for VA benefits. Senator Tommy Tuberville, Republican from Alabama, led the way this week to demand a hearing before the Senate approve any supplemental money. Senator Tuberville posted a video on Wednesday.
For nearly 4 years, the Biden administration's Department of Veterans Affairs has been failing its core mission of providing timely and quality care to our veterans. From, number one, undermining veterans' access to community care, to allowing employees to process health care claims for illegal aliens, and number three, rehiring employees who were previously fired for failing to do their jobs. There are multiple instances where this administration has failed those who honorably served our country. Now the VA has fumbled the ball once again. The department is now facing a $15 billion shortfall thanks to poor management of taxpayer-allotted resources. You heard that right. They are $15 billion short halfway through the year. Instead of taking ownership for this era, the VA is trying to politicize its failures to get more money from Congress. VA leaders conveniently waited until after the House and Senate both passed their appropriations bills to come forward about the shortfall. There's no way that Secretary Madonna and other bureaucrats at the VA couldn't see this coming from miles away. I don't believe that they just found out about this issue 2 weeks ago, but this administration is so used to spinning the narrative to get their way, they thought they could pull one over on all of us. So let me be clear. I support our veterans. My father was a veteran. I went to college on the GI Bill, but I do not support writing a blank check to a department that has proved it is incapable of being a good steward of taxpayer dollars or helping our veterans. So that's why I'm joining my Republican colleagues in demanding a hearing to investigate how the VA allowed this to happen and ensure it never happens again. You know, I hope the VA bureaucrats will stop playing political games and take accountability for its failures.
Senator Tommy Tuberville, Republican from Alabama, posting that video on Wednesday. More from the Stars and Stripes article. Senator John Tester, Democrat of Montana, the chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee, said Thursday that he agreed to the oversight hearing. He accused Senator Tuberville of playing partisan politics with veterans benefits as the Senate prepares to recess. He said, "We can't hold veterans and their earned benefits hostage until September. Our veterans and their families rely on these benefits to help cover groceries, rent, and electric bills. These benefits must be paid regardless of any hearing, and we have an obligation to provide veterans certainty now by passing this funding bill immediately." VA Secretary Dennis McDonough said at a news conference last week that the VA projects to overspend its budget not because of mismanagement, but because more veterans are signing up for more benefits they are entitled to.
We're providing more care, in this instance, more benefits to more veterans than ever before. So the reason we need additional resources is because we are doing that, enabled by the PACT Act and by a very aggressive outreach plan and outreach execution. So let's disaggregate the two questions. First, VBA, right before the end of last fiscal year, we asked Congress to lift the authorized level of mandatory funding available to pay C&P and readjustment benefits at VBA. They did that, as they often do. We did that because we anticipated a very aggressive outreach plan. We've been tracking this closely, talking with our partners over the course of the last several months. And it's become clear that because we are producing at the levels that Ken and Lashiko just talked about, that we would need Congress to lift that authorized mandatory level one more time before the end of the fiscal year, to the tune of about $3 billion. The reason being is that we anticipate ultimately producing somewhere north of 2.5 million claims this year. We had been planning for an aggressive growth rate up to 2.4 million, but again, because we're performing and producing at such a high level, we need to raise that authorized level one more time. That will cover increased benefits paid under C&P claims, as well as increased utilization of readjustment benefits to include GI Bill, VR&E, and dependent GI Bill benefits. That's all in FY24. That's VBA.
VA Secretary Dennis McDonough at a news conference July 23rd. The Senate adjourned yesterday without passing the bipartisan proposal to give the VA nearly $3 billion to shore up the fiscal year 2024 budget. One more paragraph from the Stars and Stripes article. Congress must act by September 20th to address a $3 billion shortfall for veterans to continue to receive their pensions and disability compensation through the remainder of the fiscal year, which ends September 30th. Today is the 100th anniversary of the birth of James Baldwin, an American writer and activist. At cspan.org, we have a special page, James Baldwin Centennial, with links to C-SPAN video archive programs about James Baldwin, including his speeches and oral histories, and C-SPAN 2 book TV discussions about his books. On this morning's Washington Journal on C-SPAN, Peniel Joseph, professor at the University of Texas Austin LBJ School of Public Affairs, spoke about James Baldwin.
Today is the 100th birthday of James Baldwin, and James Baldwin is the writer and the thinker and the activist who did so much to also help that Civil Rights Act be passed. And Lyndon Johnson and John F. Kennedy talk about him. He met with Robert F. Kennedy the Attorney General in May of 1963 to have a seminar and a discussion about civil rights, and certainly his best-selling book, The Fire Next Time, in 1963, which had been published as the longest essay the New Yorker ever published in November of 1962, is really one of the game-changing founding documents of the Second Reconstruction. Right there alongside Letter from Birmingham Jail, Jimmy Baldwin's The Fire Next Time really transforms how we think about race and slavery and American democracy and citizenship and the very idea of the moral and political good of the United States forever. And so Baldwin is somebody who's very, very key here when we talk about the 64 Civil Rights Act. And today would have been his 100th birthday, and it's important to recognize and remember Baldwin.
Peniel Joseph, professor at University of Texas, Austin, LBJ School of Public Affairs, on C-SPAN's Washington Journal this morning, part of a larger discussion on the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act. You can find the full video at cspan.org. And thanks for listening to Washington Today. Subscribe to C-SPAN's free evening newsletter Word for Word and get the stories making headlines in Washington sent to your inbox every day. Sign up at cspan.org/connect. Have a good night and weekend.